Welcome to video number 8 of the Git Management XUI series. Hopefully we'll start to get things actually committed to GitHub as part of this. And that may be where I bring things in for a landing. I think we've covered a lot as part of this series. A lot of really good content, making REST calls, building out XUIs, representing data back in CloudBolt when really something didn't exist already. So we'll see how today goes, and maybe we'll continue further as time allows. Okay, we are taking a look at, so last call we left off where we were getting effectively, I believe, somewhere in here we were saying it said temp directory equals none. I believe that's where, when we were going to create the tree from the directory, what I ended up finding out is just export service blueprint method. While I was exporting it to the file system, I did not have temp directory being captured as an output, and I was not returning it. So now that I'm returning it, things should be functioning. We're just heading right back into troubleshooting. We want to see that this functions now. So let's go ahead and start building this out. Let's see, 4x6. Let's just go with 5. Export content. It's not quite what we want, is it? We want create git commit from content. Nope, we want, that is it. Yes, so content type equals content d. Nope. Equals git config name equals and git comment equals. Okay, we have now our 4 inputs. We need to do our import. Git content. Now we should be able to do there we go. Cross our fingers. Okay, so it looks like we're having an issue with the UTF-8 formatting here. So I did not do anything with the file at all whatsoever. In full transparency, I don't really know a lot about like formatting. I thought UTF-8 is just plain text. I do have a mechanism where I'm doing it in another file where we are doing base 64 encoding. So I may just pull that information and use that and reuse that. I think that's the issue that we're having here, though. Yeah, so it looks like invalid JSON error. Can't decode byte 0 by 8. Let's see, let's do this. So I believe this is the last function we created. One of the last 3. So I'm pretty sure this is what it's choking on, is the encoding portion here. What we can do though is I did this for the individual file create. I know that it's working for individual file creates where I'm doing the base 64 for content. I may change this up and change it from UTF-8 over to base 64. Let me just make sure I have the correct syntax for that. I'm going to get commits. Not a commit. We're looking at the blobs still. Create a blob encoding. Base 64. So that's what we want. Now let's see how this works. We're going to just exit our shell plus, reload shell plus, and pull that changed module back in. So I'm sure we're passing this in correctly. All right, so I'm going to step into this create tree from directory method just to figure out how we want the file content to be configured. It looks like when it's getting passed into the create blob method that we're not really getting the correct file content. So let's go ahead. We have our temp directory here. If you'll recall, we are able to take and do an os.walk through these. So let's do, we need to import OS in our environment. Then we can do file path and file content. These are the last two. Then should loop through all of them, and we should have a file content remaining. There we go. So that should be file content. So I think what the problem may be here, so we are getting, you recall our error was, our original error before I started changing stuff. UTF, it was an invalid JSON error. UTF-8 codec can't decode byte 0x89 in position 0. So we have our file content now. I'm gonna try and again just kind of build this out as we go. But we have our file content. Let's see if get file path. There we go. And then create blob. So we're now down to the point to where we create blob. We have our repo. We don't have a repo, but let's set it. Repo equals, and our file content we have. So let's go and step down to the create blob method. Equals repo. We'll reset that, and then we should be able to start going through step by step. No. Maybe the read method that we're opening this file with, the RB. Let's see. I need the B. The B, I think, is adding some additional junk in here. Let's try that to start. Yes, that's interesting. Let's see if this is happening on a particular file or every file. Or the first file, who knows? Let's see. So here's our error. This is the logo. It doesn't like the PNG logo. So that's okay because that's not a, well, that is a file. That's a different file. So that's not going to be able to be read. How can we get a, okay, so I think that might be part of it. So I think what we can do, I'm gonna remove this for now. So I'm gonna go into my, I'm gonna remove my logo. We'll address this later, but the logo is now gone. So that all we should have in here are directories, JSON, and Python files. So let's start there. I'm going to go back to create blob. I'm gonna revert this back to UTF. I think the problem is, what is RB? RB opens the file in binary mode, which is identical to R mode. I don't like the, let's try this again. Okay, so no errors without the PNG in there. So the challenge is it didn't like the PNG file. We really only need things that are text for the current method. Sure. Let's go back to content. Let's go back to UTF-8. I'm going to take this create one. Relaunch. I think it's something with the file formatting, and that PNG file that definitely didn't like. Let's do content. Back up a little bit because I'm not sure. Come back in here. Let's do GitHub equals. Here we go, GitHub, PDR. That should be enough to get us to where we're going. Okay, I'm going to change this to just read mode. Do that. Okay, so now we should have our file content for our last file. Okay, so notice the B is now gone, which it can cause an issue. At least I've seen it cause an issue, again, which is binary mode. I don't think we want it in binary mode. Maybe we do. I honestly have no idea, but we'll figure this out as we go through. And then we want GitHub create blob. We have file content. We have repo. Should be able to save our SHA. Cool. Okay, so that did the trick. Opening it in read method, in the read mode with, now I'm curious. We did this in read or B in binary. I think the issue may have just been the PNG file. So let's do next. How to read text. Okay, we're well beyond that. Come on. There we go. I wonder if that will work for text files as well. So this method here, I don't know if we can, but we're going to give this a shot. So RB mode, again, remember we're reading the binary content. I want to see if I can then encode it with base 64. So I need to import base 64 in my environment. And go to import. Okay, so it's in binary mode again. So we know that. Apparently that did not copy what I was looking for. Well, that's not helpful. Okay, let's go down to create blob. We have our URL. And then we need, I'm going to change this back to base 64. Just wondering if this works with text files, and then the suggestion GitHub. Geez, that's not it at all. Well, fantastic. And copy paste is not working. File. Equals. Four. Okay. Let's try it. That appears to have functioned. So let's see if this works. So our data, the file content encoded. Perfect. Okay, so I think that just redoing the way we're encoding a little bit makes a difference. So that should do the trick here. We're going to save all. We're going to exit out. We're going to reload CloudBolt Show Plus, and we're going to reset our variables and try it hopefully one last time. Oh, it's still in read mode. We don't want it in read mode. Got to start that all over again. We do want it in binary. Awesome. So it hasn't errored yet. I'm taking that as a good sign. Okay, that's a start. I think we got beyond the tree portion. Now we're in create commit. Create commit takes 5 position arguments, but 6 were given. Pretty sure we looked at this already, but let's double check. Okay, create commit. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th would be self, so GitHub being passed in. We don't need branch shot twice. It's my fault. Really, really close now. So repo full name, branch SHA, tree SHA, and then the branch SHA. So tree should go first and then branch. So this branch SHA is not needed. Just do the trick. I'm going to knock this up line, see if it fits. I'm going to save and cross our fingers, try it again. Sweet. There we go. We got our commit URL. Let's jump over and see if we see our commit. Awesome. Here's our commit. So there's the URL for our commit. This is the commit. So we should be able to go now to github.com and go to CloudBolt samples and see recent commits. So let's see. It should be under, remember we did CloudBolt something as the parent folder. Let's check this. You know what? I missed something else too. We'll get there. So I did not put the folder structure in there because we need every kind of content to have its own folder inside of there. So we'll do that in just a minute here. Let's go ahead. So our main branch is going to refresh one more time. Let's go ahead and check out the commits here. The tower job template 2 weeks ago. So this hasn't been committed since 2 weeks ago. And I think what we're missing then is we have to then go in and do that final piece that I had mentioned earlier that I was unsure about, where we are then updating the ref. So this is pull the SHA under parents. Since the ref is main, update it. So we're going to do a patch, and then we're going to update it with this is the most up-to-date SHA for this. So let's do. We're going to call this. We're going to create a method, call it update branch ref. And we have our whatever the SHA there that we need to use. So we're going to repo get refs heads. That's the correct URL. We're going to pass in our SHA, which is our commit SHA, and then we're going to do a self.patch. I think I have a patch method in here. I do not. So I need to create a patch method because I do not have a patch method, which could be problematic. So we're going to do patch, self requests, pass in patch. And now we have a patch method. Self.patch, URL, data. And this should return, we do the self.patch. So this is, remember, this is we're making a call to the Git refs. This is the Git database references, okay. Update a reference. Okay, so this I believe, yep, that's exactly what we want to do. We may not, I don't know that we want to force. We're going to leave it as unforced right now. But we have here's our URL. And remember what I was looking for. Patch URL data, what are we trying to return? So commit for URL. Let's do URL. I think that's okay because that's going to show. Maybe we can build this to reference and get us to the actual URL in the UI so that customers can link to that and see what it's going to be. But we're just going to return the URL for now. And we're going to return I also do need to, instead of the URL from the commit, I do need the SHA here. And then what we'll do is after create commit, we'll then update branch ref. There's a commit URL. Commit SHA. Change that. There's our commit SHA. This is going to be repo. We don't need self because we will be pulling it from GitHub. We're going to do the URL URL. Let's say ref URL. I don't know. Okay, so that's now done. But what we can do to test this is, since we have our SHA, I'm going to store that real quick. Just to validate that this functions. There's our SHA. And data. And nothing's set. There's our URL, and that patch method isn't available in the class right now, so we're going to do instead of doing patch, we're just going to call the request directly. There we go. So we have our data from that commit, and let's just make sure our head updated. Hey, look at that, testing CloudBolt Git management. So we have a commit now. Let's go over to this commit and just check the files are correct. So you'll notice if we come in here under CloudBolt content, we have all of these different items we had in our directory. So that's pretty fantastic. Like I mentioned, the other thing that we need to do here is we need to specify what type this is. So we know that it's a service blueprint because of the type that's being passed in. But when we're creating this root directory, we need to structure it a little differently than just this. We're going to do create commit from directory. It's being called from here, and we have here, we are passing in the content type. I'm going to need that here as we create the commit from directory. Actually, do I need the content type, or do I want? Yeah, I need the content type. Just going to do it here. Create commit from directory, pass content type in. We're going to do root directory. We're going to do get root directory. We need the Git. We need the Git config because we need that root directory if it exists. It doesn't, that's okay too. We need Git config and we need content type. I want to make sure I don't. Remember to import this. I'm going to do that real quick. And then the next thing I need to do is make sure on the save root directory, clean data, get root directory. It's the I don't know, I don't recall what happens when I don't have a root directory. It may just get set as none, so I'm going to create a new config real quick and see what that looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and go back over to admin. This still works, so I didn't break it. Like GitHub 2, we're going to leave root directory empty. We're going to select github.com again, and again, going to do outbound. Actually, while I'm here, I want to set the config type, the default to outbound. I don't want people to select that by inbound by accident. So I'm going to inbound after outbound. I want outbound to be selected as the default. That's really what I just did there. Okay, so that's done. We go and get configs. We can see GitHub 2, root directory is an empty string. So that's perfectly fine. So empty string, I'm okay with. Let's go ahead and go in and get root directory. So it could be an empty string. If it is an empty string, let's do equals an empty string. I might be able to do that. Because with Git references, you don't want a leading slash. That's what I'm trying to figure out now. So, okay, there we go. If root directory. -1 does not have that, we're going to add it. So if they're specifying a root directory, we want to make sure that there is a trailing slash after it. And then we're going to do root directory plus equals content type. Directory. Place temp directory, root directory. Yeah. There is no trailing slash on temp directory, so the slash is going to be there regardless. So maybe instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of a slash if it does exist in root directory. So if root directory equals last character of root directory equals that, we will substring it. There we go. To go from the beginning of the string all the way to the -1. So let's say the directory, just check. No, that's going to remove the trailing slash because what's actually allied. We don't want the trailing slash after the blueprint directory, so that's not what I want. I do want to ensure there's a slash. So making sure there's a slash on root directory, and then we're going to postfix that content directory to it. And what I'm doing here is I'm going through, I'm going to build out, this is a configuration element, so I can update this as it goes. I'm trying to match our content library, GitHub repository, to make sure that we're matching the standards that are set forth in there. Just that way things are portable. Go to our content library. Those all end up being blueprints. So they're all plural. So we're going to change that to be blueprints, content map, and then we're going to return content map, content type, and that should give us the value, which should be blueprints. So that's going to get us our content directory. We're then going to turn. So that's going to get us that additional layer here. Yeah, so we'll get our root directory. Our root directory, again, is going to include the path for blueprints. In this case, we may have others, or we will have others as we expand this, but this is, again, I like to leave these things open for further expansion and try and think through other use cases that we're trying to address with this. That way we don't have to go back and refactor and refigure things out. The more future facing you can be when developing this content, the better. So, okay, that should do the trick. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save all, exit, launch shell plus. And the last piece I want to do here, if this is functioning now, is just verify that this is working through the UI. And that's really the last thing that we want to do. So let's go ahead and we need to create commit from directory. So again, I need no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do create git commit from content. So content type equals git comment again. Okay, so there's our 4 inputs, so we need to do our imports. Git commit from content, and then create git commit from content. Let's just make sure we're getting our returns as well. So I'm going to save this as commit ID. Actually, I don't think it's commit ID anymore. I think it's the URL. Let's just verify. Commit from directory is returning the ref URL. Doesn't matter here. This isn't going to take effect yet. We should still see that it's working, but here's our ref URL. It should delete that temp directory. You'll notice that it's still out there from our 100. Maybe not. It is no longer out there. So we should see that it's gone when we're done. I don't recall if I ran this in the UI. I'm assuming I did based off of what state this is in right now, but let's go ahead and let's do it. Actually, let's call it ref URL. Perfect. So our ref URL, let's go ahead and launch that. So there's our ref. It shows that was updated. We can then go over to our repo itself. This one, not too many windows. There we go. So let's go back over to CloudBolt samples. So we should see here's another. There we go. Testing CloudBolt Git management again. So we now have a new commit. Let's see now the thing here. So you'll notice it's now all under CloudBolt content blueprints. And I'm curious what happens. I'm going to do this. I'm going to rerun that entire thing one more time and see what happens if the files are not any different. See if does it even create a commit. It may not, because we want this to be iterative. It doesn't necessarily need to replace these files every time, but we want to make sure that it's resistant to those kinds of changes. So. Let's go ahead and let's go back over to the parent. I'm then going to look at my CloudBolt content directory here. Under CloudBolt content, so they must have changed the views here. Under CloudBolt content, notice I have all of these different ones, and I have my blueprints, and this is really where they should be located. Now, the other thing I'm noticing, this should all be stored. I didn't realize this. These should be stored under, instead of right under blueprints like they are right now, these should all be stored under a folder that has the name of the content that we're working with. So it should be AWS S3 bucket is the name of the directory this should be in. So I'm assuming that has something to do with the root directory. And let's go ahead and take a look at our code because we do want to fix that. One of the things I'm going to do here, I don't care about privacy. I'm going to go through and. All right, so we are. I don't remember what we were just looking at. Have my son come in and ask me a question. So I don't remember what we're doing. We don't need this. We're done with this. We're trying to get the directory situation squared away. So let's go ahead and go back over to our root directory. So let's do this. So root directory equals get root directory, but we're passing in git config and content. So we have the root directory in our git config. We also need the name. Yeah, so when we create our tree, here's where we need to do this. Create tree from directory. Now I'm going to go back through here. We have our temp directory. So let's do import OS. So our git config. Name. So git config. Git config by name. It's going to be, I believe it is git hub. I just call it CloudBolt. CloudBolt. Just call it CloudBolt. We have our git config and we need our content type, service blueprint. Okay, then we need to get root directory. There's our root directory, and then we're going to create our tree from directory. We need our temp directory. And then AWS has 3 buckets going. I'm going to use Jenkins just temporarily, just for testing. Okay, so we're missing a piece of the path. The file path. What we need though is we need the Jenkins piece here. So let's see. So root place temp directory with root directory. Let's do content directory. We'll create content directory equals put it on / and take the last one. Might be -2. Let's see. Okay, that's what we need. There's our contenter. Yeah, I really don't like uppercase names here. Let's see, I know I have some code that's doing some Slugify stuff. Let's just pull that up real quick. We're just going to Slugify that name because I can't take the uppercase and the spaces and things. Just it's okay. So let's look for. So that's what we're looking for, is kind of that. Trick. Import Slugify. I don't think I imported the right one. I think I want the Django Slugify. Django utils text. So there we go. That should Slugify things. That's going to make it a little cleaner. It's still the stub. I'm not happy with the subdirectories, but I don't want to update the JSON files and all of those just to get that functioning. This should be sufficient for what we need for now. So we have our content directory. We're going to set that there. We're also then going to take our content directory and we're going to do equals instead of replacing the root directory, we're going to do the content directory. So let's do okay, that's exactly what I want to see. Notice it's lowercase now, so the Slugify did its job. And then the Git file path should now include one additional level. Here we go. So CloudBolt content, blueprints, Jenkins, deployment item 9. Okay, so that should do the trick. I'm going to save this file now. I am going to also clean up my files here real quick. Let me go down to some codes. Nope, CloudBolt samples. And then we have, like I mentioned, we have this whole CloudBolt content. No, I haven't synchronized this down from my repo yet. So let's switch our repository over to CloudBolt samples. Let's pull origin. It should now have the updates in there. So we should now see CloudBolt content. I'm just going to delete this whole directory. I want to see it get recreated from the ground up. So I'm going to delete. I'm then going to delete. Make sure it's all under CloudBolt content. I'm good with that. And commit to main, push origin. So now that should be back to square one. So we should be able to reinitiate this and see that it is synchronizing content appropriately. Notice most of this work we're not like pressing the button in the UI time and time again. We're doing a lot of it in Shell Plus. Once we know it works in Shell Plus, then we can call it from the UI. Yeah, so let's do, we are going back to commit content. And we need content, right? And create. There we go. Well, this does the trick. There we go. Got our URL. I didn't set it to URL, but that's what we're looking for. Now the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just go back in fetch origin. We should be able to pull it down. Let's pull origin. So there's another commit on the remote. We just pulled down that commit. And we can now go over to our CloudBolt content, blueprints, AWS S3 bucket. Here's everything now located under the blueprint header itself. So that's exactly what we were looking for. So that's up and running as expected. Last thing we need to do is make sure that we can do it from the UI. Actually, you know what? Like I mentioned earlier, I want to do this one more time and see if we see a different commit. So let's actually, I'm going to change my comment. There we go. So let's go back into, now the only thing I don't know that we're accounting for are like deletes. If you've removed a build action, things like that, we will take a look at that here in just a minute. But way too many windows open. There we go. All right. Okay, one more time is the last commit. So this is exactly what we want to see. Even though it did go through and attempt another commit, what happened is the SHAs matched for all of the files. So even though we submitted a commit, it didn't submit an additional, actually, let's go back to the main repository just to be sure. Does it overwrite? So let's see, does it overwrite? Right. 0 comments. So 0 change files with 0 additions and 0 deletions. So this is actually like a superfluous commit. So we didn't really have to do this. I'm wondering. There's 0 files that this included, so it's not really, it doesn't do anything for us. Really no reason, I don't think, to make a commit if we didn't commit any files. I don't think that's bad, but I don't think that's what you want to do. I think if you're making commits, you want files to be included in that commit. Let's try the management one more time. Yeah, so see this commit, there's data in here. We're actually showing that we're creating content versus the other doing anything. So we got our PNG as well, which is good. So the binary upload worked. We can see all of these files were changed. Let me see. I think this is okay for now. I'm not a Git expert by any means or stretch of the word. It's functioning. So what I'm going to do is kind of just bring this to completion. We're going to now get it to the point to where we can do it from the UI, know that it's working from the UI. We're going to make a change to a blueprint and then verify that just that change shows in the commit as well. So let's go back over to we have our utilities, we have our forms, we have our views. So I'm going to go back over to our forms. So the magic happens here where we're saving this. So if you recall, we did this method. We have the content type. We have all the information you need to run the command that we just ran, and it's already saved in forms. I don't have to change anything. So I should be able to, I'm going to tail this log just to verify that this is happening. We should see some of this information come through. Down a couple of lines, then I can go over to my Git management XUI, I can go to a blueprint. Let's pick a blueprint that we haven't tested yet. Let's see. Let's try Azure Landing Zone. So here's another one. Let's go ahead and commit this. We can see that this now has a commit. Do save. So there we need a comment. So that's good. A little bit of error checking never hurt anyone. Notice that that CloudBolt repo is selected. What I may do is actually change this a little bit to say, please select something from the dropdown. I don't like when it automatically selects a config for you. So we'll show you how to do that in just a second. Let's see. And then let's save it. Git commit ID is not defined. So that's a problem. Git commit ID is not defined. Okay, so let's see. This is on our return. Let's see where this error is. So we're seeing the error coming from save. Git commit ID is not defined. Create git commit from content. Returning anything from this. Yep, I'm returning the ref URL. So we should have this getting returned. $139. We don't have a line 139. Oh, you know what? I need to restart Apache because I've made some changes here. I've been doing so much in Shell Plus. Just to be sure we have all of our code in place. Let's restart Apache. Let's go back over to UI, refresh that, wait for it to come back. Okay, things are back now. Let's go back over to, we're using landing zone. I don't even remember. Let's do AWS Lambda. Why not? There we go. Again, select our Git config. not choking yet. Let's start. Log back off. Don't see any error messages. Sweet, awesome. So it's brought back a new Git commit. Would prefer to send them, give them a link to the URL itself directly, but it's again future capabilities. Everything in here can be iterative. You can continue to build on this as you go. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to build production grade implementations to start. You can build it piece by piece and enhance things as you're building them out. So, but we see that things are now working. Let's just do one last check before we go. Let's go back over to CloudBolt samples. And we can now see new commit. We can go into our new commit and we can see here are the files. Here's our AWS Lambda blueprint, which was submitted, hopefully under the right direction. We're going to go out and use GitHub Desktop to pull down any new changes to the repo just to view it locally. Not that it really matters where you view it. It's all going to show the same anywhere you go, but we go to my code directory, my CloudBolt samples. You can now see under CloudBolt content, we now have another blueprint directory for Lambda, where we have all the content needed to that represents this CloudBolt blueprint. Now, the next thing I'm going to do one more thing, and then we'll probably bring the series in for an end at this point. I'm going to go over to my Lambda blueprint. I'm going to make two changes to the files in there. It's not going to be anything that impacts anything, but I do want to verify that we're seeing even minor changes in here. But I'm going to go into my build action. I'm going to launch that build action, and I'm going to go into maybe my teardown action. I'm going to edit my teardown action. Actually, you know what? The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to tear down Lambda before I tear down servers and other resources. And I want to see that this changes in my config file. So there should be three changes that we capture as part of this. So tear down AWS Lambda. I'm just going to put a comment in here. And updated May 1st, 2023. Okay, so just adding to the comments, nothing groundbreaking. I'm going to save code there, and then we're going to go back over to the create action and another line here, updated May 1st, 2023. Saving code for both of them. Now we should be able to go back over to our management SUI. I go to Git management and go to my Lambda blueprint and select the Lambda blueprint. Remember, select the right Git config, and we're going to say, here's our new updates. So that's just the commit that we're going to write. We're going to go ahead and submit that. This should go through and succeed. Okay, the commit's already created, so everything's been uploaded. We can go back over to our repository. We can see, here's our updates. Let's go to our commits. We should see three changes. So notice our deployment sequence changed for the teardown element for Lambda. So that was one thing we did. The second thing, we updated a comment here. Teardown changed a little bit. We'll look at that in just a second. AWS Lambda script, and then so that's interesting. I wonder, is there not a teardown? There was a teardown Lambda script before. Teardown AWS Lambda. In the script. Why that appears? Oh, you know what happened. So here's where this could, where we want to start looking at deletes, and we'll handle this again. This is iterative, but since we changed this, what happens is the way that we name our files. Notice it's teardown item -1 now. So we changed the position of that. We changed the file name. So I'll go through and make sure that this matches exactly. But yeah, for now, we see the changes were recorded, just not in the way that I was hoping and expecting. It's a little more involved than what I was thinking it would be. The other thing, I don't see the teardown Lambda script. Oh, it is here. There's that change that I made but again, because it's now the -1 instead of the 2. That's all right, but the challenge now is if we go back over to CloudBolt samples, go to CloudBolt content blueprints, we can go into our Lambda blueprint, and we now see we have 2 teardown actions. We really don't, and the metadata.json is only going to reference one of them. Notice it's looking at deploy sequence 1. So when we read this metadata, we're not going to look for we're looking for deploy sequence 1. We're not looking for -1 or whatever the sequences are. Not even sure. Actually, we're looking for teardown items. So deploy sequence is -1. What the new commit should be. So yeah. So again, I'll get these updated in time, but it's a start. Things are getting committed. Some of the overwrites and updates just need some additional eyes on to make sure that they're being done appropriately. So I'll continue to iterate on this. Thanks if you made it this far, congratulations. We've done a ton, and this should be just about most of the tools that you need to get started with writing ZUIs in CloudBolt. There are a whole bunch of different kinds of ZUIs. I think we covered a lot of those in the first call, but this admin level ZUI handles a lot of the things that we're going to use in those other elements anyway. Again, thanks if you've made it this far. Thanks for making it through. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your CloudBolt team, and we can help dive in a little further. So thanks a lot for your time, and hope everyone has a good day.